Boom, hello and welcome to the Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast, Season 2. With your host, Byron Rodgers. This podcast is dedicated to the executive protection practitioner, the private security professional. In this podcast, we're going to talk about the mental, emotional, psychological, physiological fitness that goes into being an efficient and effective executive protection agent. Whether you're in law enforcement, whether you're a mom that's looking at how to protect her children, or a father that's focused on how to protect his family, I believe this podcast has something for all of you. We might even get into some tales from the crypts of true Hollywood stories from time to time. I'm doing this podcast because I feel the reality of this job is simple. If you really want to be good at executive protection, it's more than just a job. It really is a lifestyle. And those of you who've been in the game for any serious amount of time, you already know what I'm saying is true. So if that sounds interesting to you, enjoy the show. Out. Boom! Yo, what's going on, you guys? Byron Rodgers here with Executive Protection Lifestyle. I'm here with Ilya Umanskiy, hanging out. We're going to talk about some high-level things that I've really been looking for people who specialize in for a while, and I'm excited. How are you doing today, Ilya?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. It's going to be awesome.
And your companies are Sphere State and Current Consulting, correct?
Yes, sir.
Outstanding. I'd say that in the few years I've been here, for a little over a decade in the private security industry, I've done a number of different interviews. The things we spoke about briefly have turned out to be some of the most important skills that I've used over the years. And so, I really haven't found anyone else in the space that's touching on a lot of them. So I'm really excited. I'm just really excited to have this conversation, my friend.
Well, I also thank you for thinking of this and allowing me the opportunity to share this with you. So I look forward to speaking with you.
100%. And I get kind of on that, I get a lot of questions almost daily about how can I get into the industry? How can I improve the quality of my career? And so I want to assure you guys listening that this podcast, we're going to touch on some things that really are the answers to how you can do that, in my opinion. That really, if you were going to give them just a quick snippet about kind of what you do a little bit and your background and what we'll touch on, what would you say, Ilya?
My background
just give them a taste. Give them a taste.
Yeah. No worries. My background is very unorthodox by the standards and measurements of, I would suspect, your audience, because
yes,
I was a college student. I got picked out from a master's degree program at John Jay College of Criminal Justice by, at the time, a person who basically just literally gave me a shot. Okay, that's how easy it is. It was literally just a stroke of luck, if you will. And his name is Paul DeMatteis. He was actively looking for resources at John Jay College, and then he said, "Okay, come on board to Prudential Financial." And I started in the private sector. I haven't started in military or law enforcement. I've learned everything I know today on the job, and obviously being a continual learner. So I started in global security department, worked there for 5-6 years. Pretty much, I would measure, I've done in 6 years, or our team has done in 6 years, more than some people do in 20. And wow. That's because of 9/11, because I joined in 2000, and 2001, of course, rolled in, and we were running on more cylinders than we could count. And then I moved on to Kroll, became a consultant, and stayed with Kroll for 11 years. I like being part of teams for a fairly significant number of years. It's great to learn about the company. I've had great privilege of working with very knowledgeable people. And again, a learning opportunity, a learning curve. One of the first projects I worked on was the renovation of the United Nations headquarters in New York City. Wow. So they threw me into that, and I had to learn. And then for 11 years, I've been with Kroll from 2012 until 2017. I was based in Asia, in Hong Kong, where I am now, again. And so I've been both in-house security manager, if you will, than a consultant.
And what does Kroll do exactly, just for the listeners?
KROLL. It's one of the pioneering investigations firms in the private sector. So they've been started. Kroll was started by I think a prosecutor, if you will, a person who used to work for a prosecutor's office, and he was a district attorney. And he decided to help out his family. His name is Jules Kroll. Through that helping out, he solved a fraud case. And he scratched his head. He says, "There's no private security like business, like industry that we can, that we have that serves these corporates." And he started a private investigations house that very quickly grew, and it's now a global firm. Very well recognized, and they at some point they said, not only do we want to do investigations, but we also want to do security. So both through organic growth and some acquisitions, they expanded their security practice. So today you'll find them doing a lot of incident management. They do executive protection. They do a lot of cyber work. They've established a separate cyber group. So that's what they are. I've spent years working with them, doing investigative work, doing security work, and everything in between.
And then now, what are you up to these days?
So imagine that a consultant goes to clients and you talk to them. I'm sure you've seen this, right? You go to clients, you talk to them, you give them advice.
Great advice.
Great advice, man.
Best security. This will be bomb-proof. Everything.
Yes, bomb-proof. We're good. So everybody's smiling. You give them a report. You walk away. They do nothing. Or if they do either a third of job, or they just shelve it. They just don't understand how to move on, right? Yeah. So I scratched my head. I've been doing that for many years, and I said, okay, well, something needs to change in the way we give advice, maybe in the way we appreciate our clients. We appreciate their lifestyle. We appreciate how they think about protecting themselves and protecting their businesses. And so,
because what happens right after they do nothing is they go and give all the funding you asked for to something like a piñata party or something, and you sit there and you watch and you're like, we could have got the whole thing done, because there's that disconnect in their minds in value. Yep. and exactly what you're talking about.
Right. I'm so sorry, right. Go ahead. No, you're so right, because I've seen funds diverted to various other things, or department and consulting teams reduced or taken off projects just because clients are moving on. They're like, whatever. Yeah,
nothing happened. I'm okay now.
I'm not feeling it. Nothing's happening. I'm not feeling it. We're moving on, right? And so today, what I do is I help what's called right the ship. Okay. So when the client looks at the current environment, when they see, well, wow, friend of mine with another firm, oh man, they tanked, they lost a ton of money, they had incidents, blah blah blah. Then another company goes, oh yeah, we're losing money, we're in bad shape. We thought we were good, we thought we had everything ready. We're not ready. Especially with COVID, a lot of companies had to completely rethink the way they operate, right? So how do you allow people to work from home, for example? I mean, there are a lot of things to consider. And so what I help companies is to remove assumptions and remove this overconfidence from what their current plans are, which then helps build what's called resilience. So you're ready to face the crisis. First of all, you should be kind of preventing it from happening in the first place. But you're ready to face the crisis. You understand what resources you have at your disposal. You've practiced using those resources, and then you're able to not only bounce back to the same level, but grow from the experience of this crisis and make your organization not only more sustainable for your own benefit, for the benefit of the organization, but also for the benefit of those who are observing the organization. Okay, the next investor, the next regulator, and so on. And so today I look at the variety of things that are very disjointed. For example, people will say, oh, we have access control, we have video surveillance. Beautiful, but how do they work with the rest of your protection measures in order to meet business objectives? And when I ask that question, it's like, what? What are you talking about? So this is what I do now. I help people, organizations, to remove assumptions, remove overconfidence, and understand that they can be resilient, and give them a platform for becoming resilient.
Wow. So like accuracy in crisis strategy and planning, really, and then building out more layers so that there's actually resilience, and then helping them leverage those events to advantages. It sounds like, in my own words, at least, my growth.
Totally. You said it well.
Outstanding. Extremely valuable. I love it, man. I really do. And then Atticus Polskins gave me this referral, you guys. My buddy Atticus, I got to give him a quick shout out. He was a young Marine I met at I think it was Max Joseph's executive protection course. And we trained together. Great young Marine. He was like, how can I get into the game? I had the honor of having him on one of my teams briefly, because he's one of those guys. It was easy. It was like, I just got to put this guy in there. I just got to get this guy the ball. He's going to make everyone look good. So that happened. And then he was just off to the races. And then he's calling me back, and, we're liaising and talking and reconnecting. And then he connected me with you, Ilya. And he's been, just his way of doing business, I believe, will help him go far, because he's very relationship centric, which is a breath of fresh air, in my opinion.
He is amazing. He is one of the people who inspire me. When, we all have this, a bit of an imposter syndrome. We're always thinking, am I right? Am I saying the right thing? The right things. One of those guys that really helps me stay focused on building ways of helping the next generation of practitioners. And he not only shares resources with me, but as you can see, he introduced us, so we can have further conversation, because what we're doing is we're really breaking boundaries between our ecosystems. I could talk the same
exactly
in my niche forever, and we'll still be nowhere, right? But when we start reaching across those niches, right? When we start saying, hey, I'm doing this, but you may not have heard about it. Let's talk, right? That's what he's good at. He really is able to connect people that really could make improvements in the ways practitioners learn.
100%. Yeah. And that's the same vision he showed me. And I love the way you said that we're really breaking boundaries and connecting with each other. And that's been one of my biggest goals, is the connectivity. There's so many rock stars out there. I'm a pretty mediocre guy, actually. I'm good at what I do. I know I can do what I do, and I can make it look pretty, but I'm not one of the rock stars. You know what I mean? There's so many great guys out there that can do this job so well. And it's we can learn so much, together we can achieve more, but really we can all make ourselves so much better, by sharing all this knowledge. And so that's kind of always been my endeavor, because I wouldn't be here if there weren't people that brought me under their wing and helped me learn how to survive in this game.
Sure, for sure.
That's beautiful.
So
go ahead.
What I want to add to this is the only thing that we all need to start thinking about is really how do we take our conversations and our interaction and networking and make it a little bit more structured. And this is what I've been doing. I'll tell you more about Sphere State. I think you wanted to learn about that as well. But that's the part that Atticus helps me be inspired about and be focused on. So, I really appreciate what you're saying, how we can empower the next generation, really help them to be successful, and at the same time, learn a trick or two ourselves.
100%, always. Is even with my course with the League of Executive Protection Specialists Training Day Success Package, I'm their peer. You know what I mean? Yes, weekly I come on there, I help people with everything, but weekly, not only do I coach and counsel, weekly I learn, and weekly, it's such a beautiful reciprocation,
Sure.
and it's just, I don't know, that I run from the kind of instructor suit, but we're all peers, man. And you end up on another detail, you got to learn everything all over again. So the cup's got to be at least half empty all over again. It's an interesting world, industry. That's awesome. And then you mentioned, and we might get into this. I mean, obviously we're going to get into this, but you mentioned helping the next generation be better. Mm-hmm. And how do you see your contribution? What's your role in that?
I was stupid about it for a long time. I was very selfish about it. I was saying, oh, no, how do I make myself better?
Right.
Okay, and that stuck with me for some time. It resulted in me being, less collaborative, less reciprocal, if you will. But the way I think about it now is we're very, very good at building these networks of relationships.
Yes.
What we're not very good about is really collectively agreeing on what the fundamental knowledge should be. And so, where do we draw it? Because we, until recently, even today, we are still being called a trade. I'm hearing this left and right. Okay, and so I don't believe it. I think we're a profession. However,
100%.
If we compare ourselves against other professions, look at doctors. What is their pathway to becoming a doctor? Right? Is it well structured? Hell yeah. If you look at architects, okay, how do architects become architects? Right? School, certain qualifications, degree, then you get certified, you get a license, become an architect. Right? Then you look at engineers. How do engineers become engineers? Right? Also a very defined pathway. Why do you get so many questions? How do I get into this industry? Because we have no pathway. Okay, my biggest challenge to anyone in the industry is I can beat myself in the chest and tell you war stories any day. Okay, But what am I doing to help structure the pathway for the next young or aspiring professional? So what I've been doing is I've been focusing on building a platform for, I'm not saying it's all inclusive. I'm not saying it's all, it's comprehensive.
Magic beans.
Yeah, so it's not magic beans. So
no magic beans. Come on, man. Podcast is over. You're trying to get them beans, son. No, I'm just playing.
No beans. No. Maybe I'll include the link to beans. I don't know.
Hey, yeah, those are the good ones.
But what I've done, I structured something that took me and a lot of my colleagues to different levels as we progressed in our careers. I just observed, and I applied those observations to building what I call a skill domains platform. So just what you say about, how do you communicate, soft skills. There's
social dynamics.
About soft skills, right? So soft skills, if you only learn that, you're still dead in the water. Mm-hmm. It's nice to have soft skills, nice to be a nice smiling individual, get along personally. But if the next question comes, how do you run in advance? Okay? And if you don't know how to do that, you're dead in the water.
Yeah. So you're selling nothing.
Yeah. On the flip side, you could have some technical skills. You could have some focused understanding. But if you don't know how to talk to people, and I've seen a lot of people in our industry that can't, right? You're dead in the water anyway, right? So you'll immediately see how you're not accepted in certain circles, how you're not able to progress with your career. So what I've done was I built 7 domains of knowledge. So just thinking about architects, doctors, engineers, I said, well, can we have a platform? Can we have something that takes a young practitioner, no matter what niche they decide to get into later on? I don't care. That's beautiful. But if we start with the premise that I'm looking to be a protector, and that's a wide term, okay?
Yes.
But life, information, facilities, what are we looking for, right? No matter where you decide to become a protector, if you try to align your skills along these 7 skill domains, I think you'll benefit. And this is what I've been up to.
Outstanding. This is so good. I want to clap. It's beautiful because it's beautiful to me because we've been working on the same type of thing and your way is just awesome. Like from what I was seeing, I'm so excited to bring it to the game because like my stuff covers just different things in different ways. And there's just this nice overlap. So we're going to have to, I mean, hopefully we'll do some things with the league as well too, man. Because we've joined forces with a number of brands to offer more robust things to the group, to training day. But this is a problem I've been dealing with since I've started my brand. It's something that I believe deeply in because my inbox is always full of the same question. How do I get into the game? What do I do? And so that's awesome, man. So into the next questions, I guess, the actual interview questions. That was just the appetizer, y'all. So who would you say you are at your core, Ilya? This is psychology background, man.
I know, right?
Anything in the way,
I, at my core, I aspire to be a kind human being, a person who is very inspired by being able to help someone else. I think that's who I am at my core. The way I look at like my personal life, what brings me greatest joy is when I've been able to lend a hand, even kind of without any recognition, but I've been able to lend a hand to my son, my daughter, my wife, my mom, whoever, right? My brothers. And I see fruits of my labor and I see that they're better off for it. I think that's who I am at my core. I try to be kind and helpful.
Outstanding. Yeah. And you almost, I feel like maybe I'm, but I feel like when you really when that happens, it's like one of the biggest payoffs. It's like priceless. You know what I mean? When you live your life by that, I don't know, like I'm contribution centric. That's the way I say it. And when you see that happen, the payoff is just like, it's amazing. It's fuel.
It's sometimes tough to understand when you're young.
Yes.
Just my 20s, 30s, it's, maybe didn't register as well as it does now. But you at some point arrive at the same question. So I appreciate you asking it because I feel like this is the question that we don't ask ourselves often enough. Like, who am I at my core as I prepare to take this next leap? Or as I prepare to join this next organization? How many people drop out from organizations that they join just simply because their views don't align?
Yeah.
So knowing who you are at your core is a very important quality.
Outstanding. Yeah, it's grounding, and even when you're wrong, you shoot at what you thought it was and you find out what it really is. So you can't lose when you put that North Star up there.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, man. Well, tactical background real quick, just because they always, want to know, how EP guys are.
I have to make sure that I'm able to describe it properly. So,
okay.
In terms of executive protection, close protection capability, I would be considered a project manager. Okay. So my job has been to interview operators for different types of scopes, different types of assignments, build teams of operators, and then let them do their magic. Okay. Ooh. So I have not personally, been trained to go and carry out, let's say, a protection assignment. However, I like to the point about my core. I've been behind the scenes, helping manage crises, helping families travel, helping executives be protected at board meetings. But my presence was not in front of those protectees. And so my tactical background is I understand enough to tell the team what work they need to accomplish, that set the platform, set the goals, set the scope, set the hours and expectations, and then let competent people do their work. So I guess from a tactical perspective in EP, this has been my background. I've worked in places like Bangladesh, Philippines, obviously the US market, several other places in Asia. So, have both domestic and international experience with that.
Outstanding, man. Outstanding. No, that's good. And it's good. I love to try to gain information from all levels, us guys on the ground. Really, it's quite an advantage just to get that perspective. Do you speak any other languages, just out of curiosity?
So I was born in Moscow, so I'm fluent in Russian. But I moved to the States when I was 17 years old. So I guess by Russian standards, my Russian sounds terrible, but I still get by. It's fine. But so that's my second language.
Oh, so they call you an American and all this stuff, probably.
They I
They
definitely don't pass as a proper Russian. I can tell you that.
Right.
I've been speaking English for such a long time and dealing with people in English that when I get to Russia or speak to Russians, they're like, what's going on?
Good to go. So you mentioned complex problems the private security field has not been able to solve on your website. How would you approach that statement?
So I believe the way to approach this statement is to shed our profession. So take a step outside of your profession and just think about, okay, the organization has business objectives. Any human that, let's say, high net worth executive, they have their lifestyle, they have certain objectives that have nothing to do with protection. Okay. So, but at the same time, in order to achieve those objectives, for example, high net worth families, right? Stay out of trouble, right? Travel safely, look after your family, protect your residents, kind of feel comfortable and engaged with your lifestyle, whatever events are happening, right? So these challenges, right, they entail so many different categories outside of our profession that they are infinitely more complex beyond our profession itself. So they don't only look for protection. Sometimes I've seen clients that look to me as a psychologist. I'm not a psychologist, but they look to you to just reassure them, hold their hand, talk to them, in kind terms, and tell them that they're not failing in life. Okay, forget protection, right? Then you talk about our profession, and complexity exists even within our profession. For example, I can solve technological problems sometimes by applying human capital. I can take people, like, for example, I was working in Indonesia and I was saying, we're going to implement, technical security systems, right? They told me, Ilya, be careful with that because we could hire a lot of security guards. So if you want cameras, we have eyes and ears, no problem. Because this is human capital can be readily available. And sometimes technology is not, or good technology, right? So in our industry, we are too siloed to think in terms of how can I solve my client's problem by taking tools from across the spectrum of our niches. Do I need executive protection here? Do I need technology here? Do I need operations and guarding here? And how do I know? How competent am I at taking those tools, evaluating them, and saying, okay, this one will work, or a combination of these tools can work for you. So solutions are never unilateral. They're never enclosed within, let's say, the niche of executive protection. Because even if you're doing a gig, even if you're protecting an executive, there are multiple other ways in which I can help them stay out of trouble without having to apply executive protection. Okay. Right. So this is where I believe complexity so far has been winning against our industry.
Interesting. I feel like the executive protection agent is always trying to sell security. So they're like, no, all you need is more guys. We can do it, So there's that little, almost like a conflict of interest, depending on the situation. If you're like one guy tasked with the job, then you kind of, it's like, all right, sweet, do it. I have an
example for you. I have an example for you. We were recommending executive protection for one very, very prominent and controversial executive in the United States. Okay, that person was all over newspapers, getting threats daily. Okay, because of the work that that person was doing. Right, we were recommending executive protection to that person and their family. right? They declined it outright. They said, no way, no how. I don't want it. I want to maintain the lifestyle that I live. Then I turned to to this person's executive team, and I said, what is your succession plan? so wait.
Yeah,
but
when the talent...
There's a point here. I am still trying to solve their problem. It's an organizational, not just that person's problem, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying, fine. You don't want to protect yourself in order to run your organization. Be my guest. I can't change your mind right now, but I need the organization to be sustainable as well. So what is your succession plan?
That's good to go. It's very true. It's very true. And I think also, too, the conversation we're having can help professionals. You know, when you gotta hammer, everything looks like a nail, man. You know what I mean? It's like, we'll just get more guys. Yeah. We'll just get more guys. You know, it's like, and you don't always have to do that. And I think it also helps the clients trust you more when they see you have more tools to solve. They see the sophistication of your remedies, you know, and it helps them look at you as a more highly sophisticated professional. I've definitely seen those outcomes as well. Let's see here. New talent struggling to build necessary skills for meaningful prevention of loss. What would you say about that?
Well,
new talent struggling to build necessary skills. So new folks getting into the game.
Or trying to get into the game. And what they quickly feel and experience is they're being driven into a niche. They're literally being told, okay, so you want to be a threat intelligence person? Go do this. You want to be a SOC analyst, a security operations center? You want to do that? You know, you have to do this, right? You want to be in EP, CP? Go do this, right? And nobody tells them that as soon as you hit that niche, right, and you still present yourself as a security professional, right? How do you believe you've earned that right? Right? Why? You're in a niche, right? You have no idea about the 90% of the industry. No idea. Okay? You simply are doing a small bit.
You've been on one or two details, yeah.
Why did you earn that right to call yourself a security professional? Okay? So what else do you know? And I go back to the same question of how can you best facilitate protection for your clients? Through what number of tools at your disposal can you protect your client, both a human and an organization, right? And so I feel like young professionals are struggling because they're led to believe that they're good enough to be called a security professional. A lot of them even call themselves consultants. I'm like, stop. You gotta stop. Because to be a consultant, you got to learn consulting. You have to understand how it works. There's so much more beyond just going and doing field work. Okay. So much. So my point is that it's painful for me to see when young practitioners come to the scene, they get some prominence and they're talking about things. And when they're challenged, like in the conversations I hear, right? When they're challenged, well, what do you think about, for example, video analytics market? I'm like, huh? What video? What's video analytics? Right? And if people start throwing, for example, product names at them, they're like, wait. I don't know any of that.
Other guy. Find another guy.
You gotta know that. You gotta understand why are people buying fever detection equipment and who's selling it, right? So that you can advise your clients properly on technology, right? By the same token, a technologist, right? All they talk about is tech, right? And it's very evident that teams of competent humans, if they know what they're doing, can protect facilities and organizations sometimes better than technology. Okay? So how, as a practitioner, right, how do you learn all of those skills? How do you not settle for just a niche of, let's say, threat intelligence, CP, whatever else that little niche is, right? So what I observe is the struggle by young professionals of settling for a niche, but thinking that they know it all. That's my concern, because that immediately curtails their interest and ability to be a continual learner and to actually sometimes listen to people who may be controversial, who may say things that they don't believe and don't align with. But that is the nature of our profession. You got to learn from people who you may not agree with, okay? But you have to observe what they say. You have to understand where they're coming from. And you have to take that additional knowledge so that you can be a good advisor to any client that you might have.
Outstanding. And what would you say? And is this where we get into the, was it seven skill domains? Okay, then I'm not going to hit you. I'm not going to rush there. You mentioned the difference between becoming a consultant. And briefly, what would you say are some things people really need to know if they want to consider themselves a consultant? Like if someone's sitting there like, well, I call myself a consultant. What would you say? Well, do you do this, 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 this? How would you define a consultant?
Well, a consultant, I think, first and foremost, is a person who, at the core, has to understand the client's business objectives, the client's objectives in general. Okay, it has to be very good listener to start with. That's said very, very often. But a consultant is a person who is able to listen to the needs of the client, then take a step back, look at the spectrum of available resources that can be deployed for the protection, for the assurance of protection for this client. If they're lacking certain things, they have to understand how, where are some of the threats and vulnerabilities are very carefully, because sometimes I see advice that has no relation to threats and vulnerabilities. Okay, so people do stuff, but then when you say, well, what's the threat? Am I vulnerable? Right? And so a consultant is a person who will do the needs assessment, understand the spectrum of available tools and measures on the basis of understanding the threats, the actors, their capabilities and intent, and the vulnerabilities that correspond with the threats, so that they can then say, okay, I have this wide spectrum of different solutions, and I'm going to take different things that can work for my client, and I'm going to present it as a solution to my client. And much of it is done through extremely competent verbal and nonverbal communication. Okay?
This is huge right here. This is like, because you can do all the other stuff correctly. You can have built the Eiffel Tower back there, but if you cannot communicate, this is the eye of the needle. If you can't communicate it.
But do you notice, for example, about yourself that when you communicate, right, you're smiling, right? So your facial expression is already disposing me to be open with you. So it's my animal brain. I'm already favorably to your demeanor. Okay, you're laid back. So you're combining your conversational skills with the body language, right?
Yes.
So let's stop for a second, right? Who's got classes on that? Does our industry offer classes on body language and verbal nonverbal communication?
Right.
Just check it.
Just throwing it out there. I touch on it in social dynamics, but nothing like I'm sure you do. Man, it's so true, man. And it's also something I've seen so many new guys just the EP stance, the connectivity and every time I see one of these guys, I walk up and I'm like, hey, I'm like, bro, relax, man. You're putting out energy and you're putting out information. Your image is communication. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm like, my friend, relax.
Let me add one thing. It's funny because I will lose this thought. Forgive me. I just want to add to exactly.
Absolutely.
Have you noticed how people wear suits in EP? Yeah. You notice how people pick their attire, how they wear shirts and ties, how they match colors, and sometimes you look at a guy and like, what have you been thinking? You ain't fitting in my gig. I can't assign you if you're wearing all this. And sometimes devil's in the details. I've seen guys that will, do the tie. The knot is all right, fine. So they'll they'll pump it up, but then there's extra space so you can see the button of the shirt, or the corners of the collar of the shirt is not ironed very well, and you see like this wrinkle over here. So, and I look at I could measure a person top down to see, what's happening with the suit? Is the suit, relatively well oppressed, whatever? And my God, I see so many of these things. So anyway, sorry.
No, it's huge. It's huge because you do, once you start thin slicing and you're paying attention to the little things, and the way you got dressed today is the way you're going to work because it says something about your personal pride and the way, and this is probably the honeymoon phase. So this is our first few contacts. So this is your best. This is as good as it gets, and I'm seeing these little issues, and sometimes it's ignorance. I try to be very careful to determine whether it's a good heart and ignorance or if it's just like too much swag or ego, really,
Sure.
or if it's just a lack of attention to detail. And those patterns show up by the end of the day, but these things are very big. And to people that operate at certain levels, they really stand out, and they cost good agents a whole lot.
Yes. They could be very professional. I feel, know their stuff. But at some point you see that they miss certain details that are most visible, because what's visible to a client, the tactical work you do is less visible to a client because they don't understand it. How you behave verbally and non-verbally. Right. This is what they notice. They notice your body, notice how you speak to them, your demeanor. I think if that's not aligned, if that's not well practiced and well coached, I feel that's where failures occur.
Yeah, because that's where the disconnect happens. Jeff's just not quite working out. That's where they sit there, because your behavior and your appearance is going to directly impact their brand. The look and feel of their brand, the quality of their life, all of these things are impacted. And that's really what they care about. Like, great, you're a Navy SEAL, cool, great. Then they don't care anymore when they see you in their world, because then their social environment's now judging you and judging them off of you. And so these things are very important. So it sounds like really, I guess what it sounds like is you're really creating helping private security professionals understand maybe how one-dimensional or two-dimensional they are, when they really, there is just so much more of a robust package we could be focusing on and that we could be offering to the clients, really, to be true private security professionals.
Well, you use this word protector. I mean, I feel that's extremely foundational for people to use proper terminology. And if we take, and I fully agree, by the way, with you about the word protector, right? So if we focus on the definition of that word and how this word is perceived, right? That doesn't sound one or two dimensional. That word is very vast, okay? Like I said before. And so you have a spectrum of things to learn, but if you focus on just saying, fine, I want to be a protector, right? What is my spectrum of knowledge? And this is what I've been working on and trying to help young professionals understand that the spectrum is much, much wider than what they believe.
Yeah, and that's what I'm excited to bring to the game. So this is where becoming a polymath of these things is really where it's at. Outstanding. Correct. Truth be told, I had to look that word up. But anyway, here we are. Hey.
It's new to me too. Polymathy is actually an old term, but think of Leonardo da Vinci. Da Vinci is the ultimate polymath. I mean, that's the best analogy I can offer. But beautiful. Yeah, being a protector and being a polymath is probably a good platform to start with for anyone.
Outstanding. I love it. So now we get into these skill domains. Break it down for us, brother. What do you got? How have you divided and kind of put that spectrum together?
You actually already covered, let's say, the first skill domain, which is professional polish. Professional polish gets us in the door, and it helps us stay in that space, right? Yes. That's professional polish, all right? Your punctuality. For example, we started our call right on the minute.
Yes.
Okay? Right? How many times have I seen agents be late or, it's not a big deal. It's okay, 5 minutes, whatever. No.
It's a big deal.
Okay. So punctuality, right? Big thing. But a lot of people forget. being able to understand task prioritization. Like,
Yes.
To a lot of your listeners, just look up what's called an Eisenhower matrix. That's it. It's a big square subdivided into 4 smaller squares. And that helps you prioritize your tasks for the day. 1 sheet of paper. Okay.
Wow.
So then the second domain is psychology, right? We already touched on this, right?
Yes.
If you don't understand human behavior, human decision-making, human biases, and human cognitive heuristics, you're dead in the water. That's where I've been for like the first 5-7 years of my life. I was just executing. I was like doing work. I thought it was great. And then I started noticing, like, my client is like, first of all, they're angry. Second of all, they're not taking a whole lot of my advice. Or the organization is constantly cutting funding from our programs. Why is that? Okay, so that understanding of psychology is absolutely important. It's absolutely necessary.
It's everything. And if you're really not thinking, like in war, we think from the mind of the enemy constantly. You build a thing, you build your fortification, you have your set in your ambush. It's like, okay, so if I was the enemy, how would I attack me? What am I going to see? What's going to be my next move after the ambush starts? You think of all these things. In executive protection, if you're not thinking from the mind of the client, you're just not playing the game. You're just not even in the game. Like, you've constantly got to be considering their world, their motivations, their value structure, and you've got to be looking at everything and scrutinizing it through the eyes of the principal and the client. So that psychology piece is gigantic, because you'll make suggestions, you'll do things, you'll cut your own feet out from underneath you. Totally. If you don't really understand what they're about.
And it's very important you say this. I couldn't agree more with kind of the way you're describing how this works in executive protection, because I'm a latecomer to this as well. Like, and this is my frustration, and I don't want the young practitioners to spend the first 10, 15 years of their life without this knowledge. It's not. It's just not fair for our industry.
It really isn't fair.
Here for so many years and not have built this knowledge so that a person can be set within the first couple of years. We don't have to wait. This is not exclusive. This is not. You don't get to the next level within 10 years. So it's all bogus. It's the legacy problems of our industry, right? I can enable.
That's a true statement.
Anyone. I can enable anyone. It can be a person from the street. Okay, I can enable anyone within a couple of years, right?
Yes.
Really coaching them and giving them the right education, this set of knowledge. It's not a problem. It's out there. It's just not being funneled and collected properly, which is what I've been doing. So domain 3.
And disseminated properly. And disseminated as well, syndicated properly. I couldn't agree more. This is the same stuff.
So domain 3 is design. Okay, so we are thinking about design in many different ways. So if I asked you how you define it, you'd probably give me a definition, and it's not going to be the same as mine. That's totally fine. At the core, design is completely around us. It's everything that enables human life, human performance. So for example, you're clicking on a keyboard button right now. That keyboard has been designed by somebody to make your experience as easy as possible. Or sometimes not as easy as possible, and you find these tools to be clunky. Okay, for example,
it's a disconnect.
Exactly. Why do EP agents and EP teams very carefully scrutinize gear that they put in their backpacks? Okay, why is it that they have to be very careful? Does this earpiece fit me, or does this radio piece is it workable? Can I distribute it to the team? Are the buttons easy to press? Does it have all the features? Right. Everything I've just said is part that's designed by somebody for someone. Okay, so this Motorola,
Well, you don't want design friction with your design while you're trying to do your work. So the less friction you have with design, the more you can be mission focused, mission efficient, and mission centric. It's like, you know what I mean? And this is kind of the game. Your
clients benefit from it because you are then passing on the same ability to design proper user experience. Okay, these are technical words, user experience, UX, right? proper user experience to your client.
Exactly.
Okay, and so I put that third domain as foundational, because if, like, for example, I welcome for any of your listeners to look at something that's called, it's on YouTube, it's a set of videos that's called Norman Doors. Okay, that's all you need to do. Take a look at that. The Don Norman is the grandfather of design. Okay, he's written one of the first comprehensive and very digestible books, Design of Everyday Things. Okay, so
can you send me some links once we're done?
Totally.
We'll put it in there for him. Awesome.
Yeah. Norman Doors, Don Norman, Design of Everyday Things. And by the way, interestingly, for such a high-end guy as he is, the book is free.
Wow. Free is the key, man. So you have no excuse.
So anyway, so design is domain 3. And then I have four domains that I believe are core to our industry. Okay. One is operations. Okay, so how do you run a team? How do you build talent? How do you structure your team so that it aligns with the rest of the organization that you're part of? How do you plan? How do you put processes in place? How do you design those processes? How do you manage teams and their execution? And what metrics do you have? Okay, so that's part of the operational domain. Where in our industry is it being taught? Okay, I grant. People say SIS does it or not. Well, SIS, in my humble estimation, I've been a member for a long time. No longer a member. They don't really have a program that teaches you operational security. They just don't.
Yeah, this is kind of, I like these little things. I feel like a lot of what a lot of guys are learning out in the industry, and it actually might contribute heavily to what you're speaking about, is, and it's something that I really crush with my school, is you just get taught how to do executive protection. And then they give you, and then they're like, you're an agent now. And then like, go out into the world and be executive protection agents. And then you go out and you think you can do it. But all these things like operational OPSEC and operational security and even the professional polish and marketing yourself, all these things that you need to survive, the social dynamics, interfacing with your client, your team. Interfacing with your team's huge. The royal court, all the relationships. I feel like, and maybe that's been something that's contributed so heavily to it. So these guys are running around, girls are running around being like, well, I've been trained on how to do executive protection. And it's like, I'm 5'10", and I'm like, just kind of mediocre. And I've been running circles around some of these situations because of leveraging the psychology and all these different things. And that's what I've been trying to pass. That's what I've been trying to get out. So it's all, I just couldn't agree with you more. Go ahead. All right.
No, super. So the next domain after operational security is technical security, or I would say technological security. So think about, so a team of agents is deployed to, let's say, somebody's residence, okay? And the resident says, oh, don't worry, I got tech covered. I got the soup to nuts video surveillance, access control, I got my intrusion detection all set. Once that person utters those 3 terms, the agents better understand what the person just said, okay? And understand how to scrutinize what that person just said. For example, there are 3 companies in the United States that have been banned from providing video surveillance equipment to government contracts.
Wow.
Do you know who they are? And do you know what those companies are? And for whom else they make their product? Because they've been OEMing product for other companies, American companies. So now what do you pull out? Okay, but going back to that residence, once the person says video surveillance, access control, intrusion detection, right? If you come across a piece of hardware, piece of technology that's out there, that you're looking at, would you be able to tell how it works or whether it's good or not, just by looking at it? Would you be able to then scrutinize what kind of signal it sends to the server or a computer on a graphical user interface? Are you able to manipulate and recalibrate the system so that it can take the signals and be more intelligent to serve the needs of the client and your team? So I just asked a bunch of questions, right? Yes. I welcome for your community to go and explore on their past gigs what they have been facing and whether they could accomplish those things that I just asked.
100%. Those are skills that are compartmentalized generally to other other professionals. You know what I mean? Like the average executive protection agent isn't gonna, they're gonna hire someone. They're gonna have a third party. They're gonna bring in a vendor. They're gonna, you know what I mean? Things like that. And with the operational security, it's like, if you have a mistake in this one thing, it can blow your whole entire spot up. And then the other side of that is you almost at times have to learn how to deal with the inevitable hiccups that you will have in this social media age with regards to this one thing and building contingencies around that. But I have also seen, and we've all seen, agents themselves destroy things with bad operational security, and it's very important, and it's these are things you think you shouldn't have to say. But when you see one of the guys on the detail on social media with a picture with the client's car or something, you're like, do we have to kill him? You're like, how? I didn't think I had to tell you not to do that, but here we are, So these competencies, man, I can already tell an operative with these competencies is going to run circles around one who does not have them.
Well, imagine a client, the same person at this residence, or let's say a corporate client coming to you and saying, okay, well, you're executing my security. You're part of the EP, right? But here I am. I don't know this, but can you help me and talk to let's say, an access control vendor?
Mm-hmm.
Will there be a pause? Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, will this EP agent, right, be included enough to have an intelligent conversation with only with the client, but to advise the client after having had a conversation with the access control vendor? Okay, right. If they don't understand how to scrutinize technology on behalf of their client and also in support of their operations, why do they believe that they have achieved the pinnacle of the career?
Right.
So this is where you've been saying continual learning.
100%.
That facilitates continual learning. That's my second focus domain. And then I have two more.
Yes, sir. I mean, it's literally like when you go to the mechanic and they're like, oh, yeah, you've got a carburetor air vent coolant system out and it's going to be $1,300. And you're sitting there and you're like, and you're just like, I bet it's not what you're saying, but I got to pay you to get, okay. Yeah. And you're just sitting there, you're like, this is how it happens. All right, take my money.
Totally. So then I also take students toward the two other domains. The one is physical security. And this is where it becomes dicey because a lot of people in the industry have challenged me and said, well, Ilya, we're all in physical security. And I'm like, that's not correct. We're in security, but physical security is its own niche. Physical security is walls, doors, windows, blast protection, bullet protection, vehicle barriers, and so forth. The people and vehicle circulation, that's physical security. Now, how can, let's say, again, the same agent that's either at the residence or at the corporate headquarters understand, right, physical protection measures? Like, for example, bullet resistance, UL ratings, blast resistance, okay? What kind of tests are performed on what materials and what kind of fragmentation will happen from a blast of different magnitude. Then vehicle barriers. How do you select them? What ratings they have? What kind of government tests are out there, both British and American or from other countries? And what do you do with those, right? Why does everybody call every barrier a bollard, which it's not, okay? So I just mentioned a lot of things that constitute material within that physical security domain. So where people learn about locks and doors, okay? What kind of materials would you prefer as a protection agent to reinforce a residence, okay? What kind of doors and windows would you put in? What kind of locking systems? Are they going to be on keys? What kind of keys? What kind of cylinders are you going to use? Is it a master key system? So all of those questions, and I'm only touching on the tip of the iceberg here, right?
He's like, this is superficial layers. This is the beginning. This is the crust, the pie crust.
So and that's the physical security domain. And last but not least is incident management. Incident management is the ability to first look at this domain from a very high level perspective. So I always typically start by driving attention to what FEMA has created as free training. ICS 100, okay, the Incident Command System training course, and then they have multiple levels. At least if you want to understand incident management to some degree, right, you can start there, right? And then there are people like, for example, Eric McNulty, who is at the Harvard, I think they have National Leader Preparedness Initiative, something like that. And he talks about crisis leadership all the time, right? Can you perform under stress? What cognitive barriers exist to performance under duress, under mental duress? Okay, are you going to be able to give clear, concise instructions and understand how to prioritize application of resources during an incident? To what assets? Like everybody says, human life is most important. That's true, but there are other assets that also require attention, right? Are you able to function under duress, right? And how do you facilitate that readiness? How do you facilitate that response? And then how do you also learn through recovery? So what lessons are you passing on to your organization, to your team, in order to avoid the mistakes that you've made during the past incident, right? So that's incident management domain, where people get to learn what are some of the cognitive issues? What are some of the performance issues?
Yeah.
What are the philosophies?
Flooding,
So that's the last domain.
Outstanding, man. And if you're a private security professional who doesn't think you got something to learn at this point, then my hat's off to you, because I've definitely could brush up on a number of those domains, man. That's a very formidable and robust and kind of an impressive body of information to have some level of mastery over, and that would for sure, I think you'd outperform 90% of the folks out there that are in this game with those things, as long as you can articulate it and get others to understand and appreciate it. Which goes back to the first couple, I guess. It's cyclical.
Yeah. You know how they say it's all born out of pain. So we all go through our professional lives, and at some point we say, well, this is stupid. We shouldn't be doing it this way. And I've asked myself I've said to myself so many times, this is stupid. We shouldn't do it this way. And then I started saying, well, what resources can help me to do it right? Okay. So what I've done was I've built up my own knowledge library. And then I said, well, that's also stupid. Why do I have it to myself?
Right.
I can share it with the next practitioner. And so those resources that live within each of the domains, that's my, I would want to say 10 years of research. Wow. 10 years of pulling resources on. This looks good. This looks good. This would enable the next person. And because I used to teach at John Jay in the master's degree program, right? Wow. I said, if I've taught those people for continuously, this is the platform I would want them to have. And because it's good to go to college, definitely. But how do you know that your knowledge doesn't dissipate after you've completed, after you've gotten your bachelor's degree, or after you've gone, let's say, through an executive protection course, right? So you've learned, even if you were doing a lot of physical exercises and they're all kind of practices, right? However, if a long period of time passes between your last training and your next training, right? How do you know that you have solidified that knowledge you can execute? Baseline. Yes, it's muscle memory, if you will. And I'm building a muscle memory. I'm building a platform that helps constantly bring that education and memorization and information retention to a wider community.
The internalization of the skill set. Outstanding. So how do people work with you, and how does the platform work?
The platform works as follows. You first sign up and you take a self-assessment test. Self-assessment across the 7 domains. There are, I think, 49 questions. I like the number 7. What are you going to do?
I like 7 too, man.
I know, right? So I did. It's a simple test. It's not there's no prior knowledge. Let's put it that way. So you simply run across the questions within 7 domains. The system just asks you, okay, do you know this? Do you do that? And then it gives you a score and a chart. Okay, this is a graphical chart that says, here's where you are. You've scored high on this domain. You've scored lower on this domain. And it also opens for you a knowledge management platform. So go into domains where you feel you're lacking and start browsing through different resources that are out there so that you can start getting some knowledge. Now, to solidify, I have a coaching component. So if a person starts going through these domains, and obviously any information will be immediately relevant to their current experience, because if they're in the executive protection, fine, they'll probably think of a couple of cases where they say, I could have used this resource, right? So a lot of people reach out to me and they say, I want to have a few coaching sessions where we'll design a scenario that's directly relevant to this person's, let's say, current job, current responsibility, and then I help look at some of the performance metrics that they demonstrate, some of the ways in which they think about how they're going to execute, and I coach them how to maximize the value of their output.
Wow. Okay. And this sounds, and is this a one-on-one? Is this like
it could be one-on-one? Yeah, it could be like you and I right now. It also, I've done, for example, a big consulting block in the course of a month. I was teaching a student consulting, and we designed both the timing, because we did it once a week, and I designed how each session was going to go. We created an agenda for each session together. And in the course of a month, I took a person through a consulting course. Okay.
So go ahead.
So and it could be either like 2-3 sessions that the person's choosing. They could be video or they could be by phone. I prefer, of course, to see a person.
Yes.
But I also work with groups of practitioners. So I can have classes, sessions that are for, let's say, up to 7 people. I think 7 people is a good number.
Outstanding, man. You're a gem. So not only do you have the library, the information, the experience, but you're a professor too. So you're experiencing the curriculum and the teaching and the testing and all of these things with this.
Well, I learned too, keep in mind, because every person that I work with, like Atticus, like many other people that I've been engaged with, I'm learning something every time. Like, they each have their own set of needs. And I always adjust, and I always have to say, well, you know what? I actually haven't thought about this resource that could be applicable to this situation. So let me bring this and make it available to my student. And so through that experience, I'm also learning about some of the problems and challenges that they're facing, which could be very unique. And try to help out as much as I can. I'm not really, as you said, a professor. I'm more a coach. I love that title. Now, coaching, unfortunately, is very misunderstood because people can sometimes misunderstand that it's the same as mentoring. I know how I can do mentoring, but mentoring is very different. And I actually had to prepare a slide, just a one-pager, that describes what mentorship does and what coaching does. Okay, and so in coaching, I take a very finite detail of the person's performance on their job, and I coach them how to improve on that detail or on a set of details. So it's literally directly applicable, very specific. So, for example, for one student, he was preparing a plan of how to negotiate a contract with a video surveillance vendor, right? We went through a process of determining whether he was ready to negotiate on that contract and what kind of homework he needed to have done in order to have the leverage over the vendor that would help facilitate reduction of costs, better service, and so on. We talked about a lot of technical details in that contract that already happened. And so we really dive in.
Wow. This is very interesting to me. That leverage is where it's at, man. And that art of negotiation. That's where it's all at. That's good to go.
for sure.
Well, I think we could literally do like 18 episodes. We're getting to our closing questions. I am very excited that Atticus connected us. Definitely looking forward to blasting out a lot more of your work, and then also joining forces with you with the league as well, man, because I want to get everyone trained up as much as possible in these arts, and specifics. So sphere state versus current counseling, consulting.
Current consulting, yeah.
Yes. Specifically, what does each company do? And then we'll get into the closing questions.
Sure. So Sphere State is the continual learning platform.
Awesome.
This is basically that resource for young and aspiring professionals, spherestate.com. Current-consulting.hk is the company where I have a directorship role for the resilience practice. So my job is to actually be the consultant for a bunch of clients. And current consulting does pretty much what I explained for Kroll. We do investigative work, we do due diligence work. Now we do resilience and asset protection work. And we also have an advisory and inspection service for the supply chain industry. That's a biggie. And we do, we have a lot of assets that we look after in several countries, including China.
Wow. So I'm sure that's gotten real interesting over the past quarter.
Totally.
Absolutely. Outstanding. Okay. That, man, mind blown. I'm still digesting a lot of the stuff we were talking about. So one question I've added to the stack that's been interesting. Do you have anyone you would nominate to be on the podcast? Maybe someone either no one can connect me with, or go ahead.
Yeah. You definitely need to speak with Lee Odess. And he's probably going to yell at me for mispronouncing his last name myself, but what are you going to do? I think it's Lee, Odess. So he runs a media platform for the Security Industry Association. And his channel is called The Inside, or Inside Access Control. So Inside Access. Yes. And so I think you guys would definitely hit it off. And I think he would learn a lot from you, and you would learn, I think, a lot from him. And what kind of challenges he's looking at and what kind of challenges you're looking at, I think you guys would make a wonderful, wonderful conversation.
Outstanding. Well, good to go. I'll have to try to reach out to him when we get in contact with him. Thank you for that lead. I appreciate it. Favorite quote, mantra, saying?
Oh, man, you're cornering me.
And they always go out of your head when I say this. Like they just, like roaches when the lights come on, they just go flying away.
No, I don't, to be honest with you, there are so many. I'm a big fan of Malcolm Gladwell. So instead of offering you a quote, I would simply point you to his work and to his podcast, which is called Revisionist History. And this is why. So he, in this last season, is demonstrating to all of us who's willing to listen what the man with the hammer problem looks like on a huge scale when 500,000 lives are lost. So I think it's very important that we review his work and what he's thinking about. We don't have to agree, but it's very important that we pay attention to what he does, because I think that for us, beyond quotes, he's teaching us how to think. He's teaching us how to be better global citizens, and also how to help our families, our loved ones, and our peers. Another person that I feel people should really follow is Dan Heath, and his last book that's called Upstream. It's all about problem solving, and I think that people will hugely benefit and will be infinitely more informed through his work.
Man, I just want to can you send some links afterwards? I'll put it down in the write-up. That'll be perfect. No problem. Outstanding. And I really like that answer to the question, because it's just a much more robust answer. It's like, yes, give me one bar. You're like, here are some books. Here is a whole way of seeing and thinking and learning. That's outstanding, man. I really love it. It's a zoom out perspective. It's beautiful.
Well, I'm learning from you as well. I like how you're approaching the industry. We wouldn't have been talking if we didn't have a feel for each other, that we're really striving to enable the next group of practitioners. And if that's all that's important to us in our industry, I think that, I'm happy to align with that. That's great. So I really appreciate your time and putting this together. And I hope we do more of these.
Outstanding. We will. We've got a lot more to do. There's a lot more the industry can benefit from us. Absolutely. How would you like to be remembered?
As a kind and helpful person.
Outstanding. Which goes full circle to the first question. That's essentially the inverse of the question, which is perfect.
It's good to believe me, you've reminded of this to me, and it's nice to start my day because it's morning here in Hong Kong, right?
Oh,
nice
beautiful.
To be reminded that I need to carry myself today and in the future to be kind and helpful.
That's outstanding. It would make the world a better place if more people thought this way. Habit that you'd want to contribute to the listenership, something you think people would do better to maybe implement in their daily lives.
A habit. Make your bed.
Make your bed.
Yeah. Why? Because it sets your day on a note that you are looking at, however minute, but positive results of your actions, and they're complete, right? So once you make your bed, that lets your brain adjust and say, oh, okay, well, that means that every new task I will try to carry out to the fullest. I will be engaged. I will make sure that whatever challenge I'm facing, I'm able to sort it out to my best, to the best of my ability. So, and I didn't come up with make your bed thing. I think it was Admiral McCraven.
I was about to say, I remember seeing a Navy SEAL talk about that.
Totally. So that's a Navy SEAL doctrine. And I'm a big believer in a lot of these micro habits. In fact, I've learned about it from psychology, but McCraven they directly tactically deploy it. Yeah. And so make your bed.
Make your bed. Tell yourself, show yourself that you complete tasks. Set that tone, that channel at the beginning of the day. Be
engaged, be present, be humble, be kind, and get your stuff done.
Yeah, 100%. Outstanding. And anything else about what you're up to these days and where people can find you?
The links, I will offer the links to you. So it will be www.spherestate.com, www.current-consulting.hk. And of course, I'm doing the Generalist podcast on the Inside with Leo Des. We're doing our second episode is coming out, and also a very interesting conversation with a multidisciplinary panel of educators, PhDs in education, school board members, and K through 12 education enthusiasts and nonprofit organizers about the future of our education as a threat to national security.
Ooh, that's going to be good, man. You got to send that one to me. I really like that. That's a good topic. It's so important and so relevant. I mean, when I was getting my master's degree, I was just like, really, guys? I was looking around like, really, guys? that's a whole nother podcast. I'll let you guys do that one. It's going to be beautiful.
I'm very grateful. Thank you so very much for the time. I can't be thankful enough. So thanks so much for organizing.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Ilya. It's been an honor and a privilege to learn from you. I look forward to learning quite a bit more, sir. All right. We'll talk soon. Out.
Definitely.
Yo, if you're a private security professional wanting to take your game to the next level, go to executiveprotectiontrainingday.com to check out my personal success package for private security professionals. Check it out, executiveprotectiontrainingday.com. And remember, y'all, hard skills do save lives, but soft skills get you paid. Boom. home. And to support this podcast, go to executiveprotectionlifestyle.com and contribute to our Patreon account. That Patreon account is what helps me make this podcast possible, contributing to this brand, what we're doing here, making it so that I can bring better guests on, making it so that we can plan more events and just expand the contribution to the private security industry, and also to making America a safer place. Do whatever you can, contribute whatever you can, because it makes all of these things possible. Thanks for those contributions. Yo, and before we go, I got to shout out to the sponsors, starting out with Primary Weapon Systems, PWS. They truly are the evolution of the rifle. Use Byron for 10% off. Grayman & Company, the most comfortable tactical suits in the game. Use Byron for 10% off with them. Ballistic Theory. You're going to start seeing a lot of stuff with me in Ballistic Theory because they got good ammo for good prices. Use Byron for my discount with those guys as well. Last but not least, Executive Protection Institute. Hey, go check them out and get your executive protection education on. Until the next podcast, this is Byron Rodgers, protector by nature and by trade. Out.